Welcome to Wellness Snacks, a WorkWell NYC podcast providing bite-sized health and wellness tips for the city workforce. I'm your host, Daniel, and folks, we made it to our second official podcast. And it may be our best one yet, because today we're talking about a topic that probably resonates with all our listeners: how to manage work-related stress. And I have the perfect guest to give her 3 tips on how to manage stress, my dear colleague Ayana. Ayana is the lead in all our mental health programming here at WorkWell NYC. She's actually worked for the city for the past 15 years and has served as a licensed mental health counselor for the past 8. So she sure has a wealth of knowledge on how to manage stress. And on a more personal note, from just working with Ayana, she's always cool, calm, and collected. So I know she must be doing something right. So welcome, Ayana. And before we get into your tips, I was just hoping you could tell us how you ended up as a mental health counselor working for the city.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me here today. I am so excited to be sharing some tips with you today. So to answer your question, my career started at Department of Social Services. I also worked at the fire department. Both experiences really helped to solidify that I was on track correctly to be a mental health clinician. I understood more than ever that people who help others need help themselves. And now I'm happy to be here at WorkWell.
Well, thanks, Ayana, for sharing that story. It was really inspiring. I love what you said, that people who help people also need help. So now that brings us to our next part of the podcast, where you provide your 3 tips on how others can manage work-related stress. So would you like to get into tip number 1?
Sure. My first tip is create time management goals. Not managing your time correctly can really lead to stress and burnout. So what I do is I make sure that I block out time on my calendar so that I can tackle a particular project that I need, and so that nobody can squeeze a little meeting in there either. And I have time to get the things done that I need to get done throughout the day. And it really helps to make me feel really confident and stress-free.
That's actually a great tip. And I also use that for myself, specifically for emails. So instead of being stressed out all day by answering my emails, I have on my calendar specific hours that are dedicated to answering the emails, and then the rest of the time I'm working on other projects. So how about, Ayana, we get into tip number 2?
Sure. Here's tip number 2. Make rest and relaxation a priority every day. You're no good to yourself, family, or work if you're running on empty. So every day, do something social, do something that you really enjoy, and get some rest. So for me, I get a full night's rest every evening. I have had to create a routine that works for me, that gets me into bed so that I can get up early in the morning and start my day with a smile on my face.
Oh, I love that, Ayana. Just get some rest so you could start your day with a smile on your face. All right, so how about tip number 3?
So tip number 3, unplug from your critical inner voice. We are sometimes our worst critic. Happens to us all. I say be mindful of your internal language. For myself, when that critical voice starts rearing its ugly head, I try to take a few deep breaths, give it space, realize that they're just thoughts, and I watch them float away like clouds in the sky.
Ayana, you're so correct on that. I definitely have found myself stressing about a mistake I made at work, thinking my coworkers were somehow judging me. But in reality, everyone is very forgiving of each other, and realizing that can definitely help alleviate some stress. So Ayana, thank you so much for coming. This was great.
Thanks for having me. That was so much fun.
And now that brings us to our final part of the podcast, What is Daniel Snacking?, where I share a wellness or self-care tip I personally have tried. So studies have found that having a disorganized work area can lead to elevated stress levels. So I wanted to share this tactic called the 1-minute desk clean, which I learned from a coworker of mine years ago. And this is just simply where the last minute of the day before you leave work, you tidy up and organize your desk or working area. So at that time, I was working with a pretty chaotic desk, so I decided to just try it out. And after years of doing it, it truly has become a daily habit, which has led to just a more organized desk. So maybe try it out one time. And listen, no judgment here. If a messier work area works for you, then mess away. Well, thank you all for listening, and see you at our next Wellness Snacks podcast.